This meeting is now being recorded.
And crowdfunding is an important tool in the toolkit for financing some of the work that you're doing on clean cook stoves and fuels social enterprises. And so we're really pleased to partner with Indiegogo, which is one of the leading crowdfunding platforms globally. And our partnership was announced in the newsletter from this past month, as well as, of course, this webinar. And if you go onto the Indiegogo website, you can also find now the Global Alliances partner page. And we're really excited about this partnership and being able to offer our partners to be able to link their crowdfunding campaigns on Indiegogo to our partner page. And this allows sort of the cook stove sector to present a more holistic view of the different opportunities that the people, the public, have to put their money into the clean cook stoves and fuel sector. So we're really excited about this, but we also want to make sure that people have all the resources they need to be able to set up successful crowdfunding campaigns, which is why we have joining us today Alisa Cordesius from Indiegogo to talk to us more about how do you set up a successful campaign. Alisa is the Manager of Social Innovation and Design at Indiegogo and is responsible for building partnerships and empowering individuals to leverage crowdfunding for social good. Before joining Indiegogo, Alisa worked with several nonprofits, including one of our partners, Mercy Corps, Counterpart International, and San Francisco Parks Alliance. So we're really excited to have her here and to hear more about the tips and tricks, the secrets to setting up a successful crowdfunding campaign. Alisa?
Thanks so much, Jen and Julie. Really appreciate being here. I'm so excited to present to you guys, mostly just because of my own personal and professional background. I actually have done some work with economic livelihood programs and environmental initiatives and impact evaluation with Mercy Corps over in Kenya and Ethiopia and later in Tanzania. And so it's great to kind of come back to the Bay Area and have this tool here that's to everyone's discretion, utilizing it for funding, utilizing it for awareness, utilizing it for marketing, or just getting interactions from the crowd on some of your social enterprises and specifically in the clean cook stove space. So excited to be here. I'm going to run through, as Jen said, just some best practices and really kind of cater it to our audience here with some examples. And this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. There's the fundamentals, which I want you guys to walk away with today. But as Jen mentioned, we have a wonderful growing partnership with the Global Alliance, and there will be a follow-up for more information on how to get involved and what the next steps would be if this is the right fit for you. So don't, think all is lost. Just bear with me for the next 30 to 40 minutes, and then we can jump into questions. Let's see. Okay, so overall, fun fact, crowdfunding is actually not new. The base of the Statue of Liberty, not the entire Statue of Liberty, because that was a gift from abroad, but the base of the Statue of Liberty was actually crowdfunded. The only difference was people within the area went door to door and solicited to get smaller sums of money, and larger sums of money in turn came in, but they just didn't have the internet. And so the beauty of today is we're able to really capitalize on this global reach by way of the internet and connecting to people all over the world with all different types of initiatives and dreams and funding endeavors. So Indiegogo was created in 2008. Our three co-founders, Slava, Danae, and Eric, all had own frustrations with the financial system in place, the traditional bureaucratic ways, whether it was raising funds for a small theater production, to actually being approached by a filmmaker despite being a business school student, and they was unable to help fund you know, his project, and yet she had a JP Morgan name tag at an event, and this made her extremely sad because she wanted to be able to help him let his dreams come alive, and there just wasn't necessarily a way unless she had this large sum of money. So this idea came to fruition at UC Berkeley, and it's been around since. We really pride ourselves off of being the world's largest funding engine and empowering passionate people in any different type of vein to fund what matters to them. And one of our key differentiators from other platforms, as Jen alluded to, is the fact that we are global. So we're able to be in 5 different currencies and 4 languages, in addition to having 300,000 plus campaigns from different countries and territories around the world launch since 2008. So it's really exciting to see sort of that globalization occur online and in turn offline as well. And then second key piece is the fact that we're open. So we actually do not have a application process to launch a campaign. So if you were to choose to, you could go to Indiegogo.com right now during this presentation, click Start Campaign, and somehow quickly run through all of the steps, and you could launch should you choose to. So we really wanted to not become another gatekeeper. However, we do have an extremely robust trust and safety team that reviews every campaign and the legitimacy and credibility of them through secret, you know, credit card algorithms and FBI style things before any funds are dispersed. So this is a really good kind of feedback loop and accountability here. And I think most importantly, too, the way that our campaigns perform, it's not just based off of the funds that are raised. It really is based off of algorithm between the funds that are raised and how much interaction the campaign is receiving. And by interaction, I define this as click-through rates, or perhaps people are visiting the page, or you as a campaign owner are putting new content to the page. So we want the ideas that are really getting the crowd excited to bubble to the top, and that could be campaigns that are trying to raise $5,000 versus $5 million. So that is the importance of having a merit-based kind of system in place. And then we're extremely customer-focused. So sometimes you have programs that are considered tools online, and you might get force-fed them, and then you say, great, what do I do now? But for us, we're not a black box. We really want to help campaign owners succeed. We've seen a lot of things that have worked in the past and things that have not worked in the past, and we want to share that information with you. This webinar is a clear case in point of that, but even beyond the webinar, we have campaign strategists that help you walk through the process of building a campaign. My job also entails actually consulting and reviewing campaigns, pitch videos and pitch text and perks, and really making sure you are set up for success prior to launch. And once you do launch a campaign, our customer happiness team is available with a 24-hour response time, and numerous educational materials are always at hand. So it's a really nice option to know that you're not in this process alone, because I'll say it from the start, crowdfunding it's no easy feat, but it's extremely, extremely beneficial at that. So we're really excited to partner with Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves. Like we mentioned, this is just the start. The partner page is up, and there's actually been a fair amount of past campaigners that have been a part of the alliance. So New Tortilla Cook Stove for Guatemala, they raised around $19,000. And Baker Stove also came through and raised about $35,000. And this is even prior to our partnership, which is so exciting to see the organic use of, you know, the alliance partners and really helping with their financing through Indiegogo. So Jen and I are excited to kind of roll this out on a more streamlined process and make the connection and the customer service even more strong. So that's a quick background, but, what really is crowdfunding? Is it just about the crowd, or is it just about funding? And the answer is no, not necessarily. It is so much more than that. It's definitely about raising funds, but it's also about gauging interest in what your initiative is, or what your program is, or project or product. And then with interest and getting feedback from the crowd, that in turn naturally causes awareness. And so a larger audience is aware of what you're doing, and that speaks to the global reach that we have as well. And then you're starting to build this community. So I think this is really important for all of you that are alliance partners and really trying to get the word out on what you're doing to combat some of these climate change and environmental initiatives out there today. Lava May is an example of this idea for getting funding, getting interest, and actually raising awareness. So this is a nonprofit that's based here in San Francisco, and Denise, the founder, she wanted to buy an old school bus, renovate it, and make it available for free showers to the homeless. There's a large issue in the city right now, and she wanted to be able to give this humanistic quality to those for no cost. And she ran a campaign. They raised over, I believe it was $40,000. And in turn, after their campaign was complete, there was a demand from her contributors to say, hey, you guys should do another bus because there's an issue in this neighborhood in the city, and the program is working really well. So they came back a few months later. They ran a second campaign. They raised over $75,000. She was able to actually buy it, renovate it. Now there's 2 buses that go around in the city providing free showers for the homeless. And the interesting part here is actually their third campaign. We were so inspired at Indiegogo by Denise's work that a group of employees on their own accord and on their own personal time decided to run a third campaign on behalf of Lava May for their gala. So just really interesting kind of evolution of how raising funds do increase awareness and in turn build this community that's at hand, not only in the San Francisco city, but it reached a much broader audience. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. What makes a successful Indiegogo campaign? For me, there are 4 key fundamentals that you need to really lock down before getting into fun, advanced, and creative techniques. The first is having an attainable goal. The second is having a compelling pitch. Third important piece is unique perks. So these are the tokens of thanks that people get in return for their contribution. And then fourth is proactive outreach. So let's dig into these a bit deeper. Attainable goal is crucial. It's absolutely touching on the bandwagon and psychological effect of crowdfunding. And it's not trickery, it's just being strategic about what is doable and how your campaign is perceived to strangers around the world. So when you look at these 2 campaigns, hypothetically, you have no idea what they're about, you don't know the team members, you don't know any other information other than the fact that if both are raising funds, they're both in flexible funding, and they both raised $20K. But from a perception standpoint, and if you think about the attention span of people online nowadays, if somebody were to flip through and browse campaigns or to find this in a newsletter or see this on a social media blog post or channel, they're most likely going to commit to liking and wanting to read more about the campaign on the left. Now, the campaign on the left has raised $20K out of a $50,000 goal. So their goal is much lower than the one on the right, where they've raised $20,000 out of a $150,000 goal. And both campaigns have 23 days left. This funding bar, this green bar, we like to say, has such a strong effect on the strangers that are viewing your campaigns because they want to contribute to successful campaigns. And that thermometer and quick switch of making a decision as to whether they want to read more is really important to think through. So your project may be $150,000 in all, but a good way to think about this is you can use the campaign to raise the first phase of your overall initiative. And I think a misconception people have is that when they launch a crowdfunding campaign, the crowdfunding campaign has to be the all or nothing for the entire project. Now, if your project was $1 million and you only raised about $100,000, that would still look like a little drop in a massive, massive sea of water. And rather than going for the entire $1 million with one campaign, you could be transparent about what that costs and frame it as we're utilizing an Indiegogo campaign in order to achieve this portion of the project. Now, the cool thing is if you hit your goal, you're always able to exceed it. And you can always reframe your messaging to actually go towards new milestones or new stretch goals. A higher goal doesn't necessarily mean more money. In fact, being conservative, we find that 87% of our campaigns that hit their goal continue to raise more funds. This is an example of an infographic that one of our campaign owners implemented after they hit their first goal of $1,500. And they continued to reframe their goal setting and crossed off along the way, despite being completely full green bar the entire time. So another important note about this is that within this funding bar, we normally find the first third, so the first 30% of your funds tend to come from your closest network. And closest network meaning friends, family, colleagues, the alliance, people that are aware and really just an arm's reach of what you're doing. They're going to support you and they're going to help you jumpstart the campaign from the get-go. And the next remaining 2/3 come from the referrals they make and the Indiegogo crowd at large. And the reason that happens that way is because if you think about it, why would a stranger all the way, say, in Singapore, want to contribute to your campaign that they're just learning about for the first time if your friends and family aren't contributing? There needs to be a sense of credibility. There needs to be a sense of early momentum. And that really helps with the success and performance of your campaign through its entirety. So thinking through goals is something that I sit down with campaign owners and we actually hash out and say, okay, within my inner network, how many emails have I cultivated? What kind of perks am I offering? And what does this price point look like? So that's more of a one-on-one consultation, and it is customized and different for every team and every campaign owner. The next step is compelling pitch. Pitch is really key in telling your story. And by telling your story, we want people to understand what the problem is, what your context is, your proposed solution, and making it meaningful. So on crowdfunding, the beauty of it is the fact that this is a living, breathing blog, and it is, in turn, kind of an entity of yourself, and people like to contribute to people. Even if you've made the coolest new green cook stove, or even if it's part of a USAID program that's already been implemented, or even if it's some sort of exciting new gizmo gadget project and product that they can buy, they still want to know about you. And that authenticity is crucial to really connecting on a human level. And so telling your story is really, really important, even if it is something that you're raising funds for that's more tangible. Now, pitch video is something that we do suggest campaign owners take effort into. And really, campaigns who have pitch videos raise about 115% more than campaigns without a pitch video. So it's more about the hook here. This is telling and answering those questions of the who, what, where, why, and how and keeping it under 3 minutes with a very strong call to action. And the sense of urgency here is really important. Then you get into all the details. So you hook them in on your video, similar to your funding bar, and then you go into all of your details in the pitch text. And this is the place where the more you tell, the more you're going to sell. This is adding visuals. This is having budget breakdowns. This is providing infographics of stage 1 to stage 5. This is introducing your team members with photos. And I can't emphasize enough how important visuals are, not only because they do break up the text, but because you want to hit both sides of contributors, those that like to read the details and those that are actually just visual learners. There's a lot of great free products online that help with infographics. Oh my gosh, what is that one called? I'll follow up with the one. I'm completely blanking on the name, but it's free. You throw in some of your data points, and you can choose what form you'd like it to out at, and you can plop it into your campaign, no problem. So you don't need a graphic designer. You don't even need a copywriter. Quite frankly, if you're the one doing it, then it should come from your voice. But pitch text is really important. Another great thing about campaigns on Indiegogo is the fact that you can add new content to your campaign pitch text throughout the lifespan of your campaign. So nothing is really set in stone other than the perk and the goal. This is a great example of, if you can sort of see it, pretty scaled down, but Heartwood Montessori, they did a great job of describing the key points of their campaign right at the top underneath their pitch video in about 3 bold sentences. Then they continued on with some details and already started breaking it up with visuals. And we like to call this technique putting the most important information above the scroll, similar to thinking about a newspaper. You're putting a lot of the important information above the fold. So you're enticing people to want to open it up and continue reading. The same mentality here. You're enticing people here to want to continue to scroll down. So this is pretty much what it would look like in a computer screen, depending on your scale. All right, unique perks. So perks are really the key piece of wanting to attract your contributors to actually contribute, right? You're going to have people that visit your page. You're going to have people that say, this is a great cause. This is a really important initiative. Let me see what I can potentially get out of it. And there's going to be people that are selflessly giving, and then there's going to be people that are selfishly giving. And what do I mean by that? People want to contribute for 4 main reasons. They either know you, so they're actually connected to you as a person. They're passionate about what you're doing, so they want to be a part of it no matter what you're offering. They want to participate in some way, so perhaps an exclusive event or something that gives them some name recognition to a certain extent. And then finally, they want a physical perk. So this can range from the casual t-shirt or sticker or button to actually something larger and more tangible that they can bring back and have ownership on. As you can see, the first 2 reasons really are that selfless, altruistic mentality and motivation, and the last 2 are a little bit more selfish. And if you can offer perks that hit all varieties of these, you will then be able to kind of capitalize on the larger market in general of potential contributors and those that will turn into evangelists of your cause. This photo here is actually an example of a local cheese shop that did a capital campaign for opening up their business. And they had a certain perk level where if you contributed, your name was going to be recognized in the shop. And they had a muralist come in and do these sheet drawings with permanent chalk. And within this sheet fur, these are all actually contributors' names. So it's pretty amazing because if you're local in the area and you did contribute to the campaign, you're more likely to be a really phenomenal patron and going there because you're showing off your name. And they've really kind of capitalized on this and been able to build a strong community because of it. So perks are important and diversifying is key. Campaigns with perks raise about 143% more money than those without. And 70% of successful campaigns offer around 5 to 8 perks at launch. So you are able to add perks similarly to being able to edit your pitch text throughout the lifespan of your campaign. It's actually pretty strategic to introduce some new perks along the way because this really gets the crowd excited about some new update or new offering. And a lot of times they actually become repeat contributors because of it. $25 is the most popular perk. From a lowest perk perspective, I would start at a $5 level. We find that those that are willing to contribute $1 are actually willing to contribute $5. And you're able to create limited quantities within each perk. So when they sell out, then it actually increases demand. You can offer another one. And it shows that it is selling out. But an important fact is you should keep fulfillment in mind. I had a campaign owner once wanting to ship her book, and her book ended up being a hardcover of 300 pages. And at the end of the day, she was based in the UK. She realized she had a lot of contributors coming out of Australia, and she had to fulfill that perk level and send these books. And the cost of shipping ended up just being far too large, so she did not budget that accordingly before the campaign. That should not happen to you guys. Do not try to do that. And another good news is we just rolled out our shipping feature. So you actually can add shipping costs to perks now when people are contributing at that level and checking out. Bikes for Tanzania Grade School is an awesome example of how they were able to really touch on different types of perks and different types of motivation. They had a perk level that was more a unit of impact, so $25 went toward, not $25, I think it was around $150 went towards one bike. Or obviously the contributor is not receiving the bike, but they know that it is going to that unit of impact. And they also had some participatory perks. So one was an extremely high level for about $7,000, I believe, and it was actually to come visit a nonprofit in Tanzania. They had to pay for their flight, but that was a really high seller. So I'll send this one out just as an example as well for you guys to take a look at how varied some of their perk levels were. Perks with impact, so direct impact and benefit to the contribution for the organization and community is crucial, and then providing suggested contribution amounts when no direct perk is offered to the contributor is also a really good idea in terms of perks with impact. Product perks we spoke to. This is kind of just a physical object. If you are able to actually distribute clean cook stoves, that's amazing. If you're not, that's no problem, but it's something to really kind of think through. In addition to t-shirts and swag, we have a Perks Fulfillment Partner Amplifier, and they actually do full-fledged kind of printing and distributing and fulfillment for these types of perks. They take a certain margin and percentage, but it makes sense for some campaigns, and they're willing to do free consultation for you to decide. And experience perks, again, great idea in terms of wanting to get people involved and really connected to what you're doing on the ground. So tickets to an event, opportunity to volunteer with the organization, and just recognition in general. Digital goods is an awesome option as well, especially for those that are so globally connected. We've had people do Google Hangouts with the founders of enterprises, and you're able to send out access codes accordingly to as many people as you want. We've had people host behind-the-scenes access through a webinar where they actually could kind of see the inner workings of the project before it was released out to the world. You can do sound downloads, and you can do ebooks, and the gal that was sending her 300-page coffee table book, she probably could have had this option earlier on, but that was a few years ago. So this is a really, really amazing option, and people still feel connected to it despite it being online. And then what you'll find is sometimes you have the opportunity to utilize InKind Perks. So maybe one of your contributors says, hey, I'm really passionate about what you're doing. I saw your campaign. I'd love to give you X, Y, and Z. I worked with the Honest Politician campaign. There's a nonprofit that was trying to change the discourse around super PACs in the U.S. to more of a real political debate, and they wanted to do a PR stint where they had a satirical politician go and debate Mitch McConnell and a few other candidates at the time. And their campaign received so much attention that the artist that did the Hope posters for Obama's campaign actually came to them, sent them a message on their campaign and said, hey, I'd love to do a special poster, an exclusive poster for you. So right at the end of their campaign, within 3 days to the deadline, they offered this perk. They had 200 limited editions with his signature, and then posters and T-shirts, and they ended up blowing their goal out of the water. So really exciting to see how that interaction organically happened just during the entire kind of evolution of the campaign itself. All right, we're getting to it. So this is the last key fundamental, and I think, all four are really important, but this one is icing on the cake, because if you think through your goal and you come up with a compelling pitch and you have some pretty awesome perks and everything looks like it's up to snuff from a content perspective, if you don't get it out there in the world, if you don't promote it, then no one's going to know about it. It's just going to be lost in the cyber world of everything else. So outreach is key. In order to really capitalize on this, you need to plan. So having a plan is super important, and this is, again, something I help campaign owners think through prior to launch of their campaign. So promotion strategy, we have sit-down consultations, we think through with your project, with your initiative, are there specific promotion channels that it will gain more traction? Are there influencers online or offline that would be interested in helping promote? You guys are in a great space because you have the support of a global alliance on your side, and I'm sure they have a lot of great ideas and connections in this kind of space, specifically being one of the leaders in it. So that's great for you. But there's also some campaigners that they just start with nothing. So it's important to think through before you launch. So building a team is crucial. Having friends and family passionate about the project really help you get it out from the start is really key to pre-launch. And you're building these layers of onions. So this is your core. This is like your host team. These are the ones that are going to kick it off for you. Then you're going to hit that first 30% of your funding from that core. And we say before you launch, it's more so it's like a soft launch. It's sort of as if you were in stealth mode. You want to build up that momentum before you have a coming out party to the entire world of strangers. That would be the next layer of the onion. Then email. Emails are really important. Emails bring in about 20% more funding than any other source. And contributions from direct email are 30% higher than any other form. So it's great to have Facebook likes, and it's great to have Twitter followers, and it's great to have a blog and alliances and partnerships. But at the end of the day, emails are really, really the biggest conversion rate to contributions. So adding a campaign even to your signature, putting up a vacation responder, and having this clear call to action in the email is going to get that kind of direct and personal touch available, and always kind of promoting it even without you knowing when it's up on vacation and signature. So this would be the next layer. Once you've reached out via email, then hopefully you're kind of beyond 30% of your funding, and you can go to social media. And the reason we say to wait at this point to go to social media and to PR is because this is when the credibility of your campaign is already standing, and strangers are going to be more likely to want to learn about it when you're a bit funded, rather than if you just launch at zero and go straight to social media. So securing 30% before pushing the public is really important, and easy to share content is necessary, so people are able to just copy, paste, and continue on and get it out to their networks. You kind of want the 6 degrees of separation to be as easy as possible. And then this would be the most outer layer of the onion. This would be launching to the public. So you could have a press release at this time. You can talk to those influencers that we created a list of beforehand. There's information for cross-promotion between 2 campaigns. So perhaps there's 2 of you on the webinar that have the same timeline of when you'd like to launch a campaign, and you have very complementary projects. Perhaps you can highlight your colleagues or your your partner in crime there, and they in turn can highlight your campaign, and you're touching 2 different audiences right there. So cross promotion is really nice and a cool way to kind of build the community within both Indiegogo and the Global Alliance. But again, this is more of the outer layer of the onion, so those first few stages are crucial before you get to this point. And then updates. So updates are within the campaign itself. It's the second tab to the right from the story tab. And updates, we tell people, again, to that mentality of thinking through your campaign as a living, breathing blog with a call to action. So bloggers write posts probably twice or 3 times a week, and they give rich content. They give kind of exciting new pieces of advice or editorials or anything to that extent. You need to treat your campaign like that. Posting around 2 to 3 times a week, and these posts then go to your past contributors via email. This also kind of increases the interaction I was speaking to earlier about being a merit-based platform. The updates should be not just soliciting like, hey, give us money. They should be something that your contributors and your community will take away and want to feel like they're a part of something and understand the progress that's going on, perhaps even some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges. And so this is really, really important to not spam, but use it as a compelling communication channel. Another example of a campaign that did this really well, this was the Harry Potter Alliance, and they were doing more of a movement for equality, but they did a lot of different types of creative ways to get the word out and have proactive communication. So they had a live event, they utilized perks as new promotions and updates, and they had a core team of ambassadors who they called their action team, and they galvanize these ambassadors at different colleges beforehand. So it's just one point person at like around 10 colleges that was in charge of getting the word out. And they equipped them with a toolkit to help promote, and in turn, they raised over their goal. It was a really exciting and creative way to engage new communities around the area. And so those are kind of the key 4 pieces. We've got goal, pitch, perks, outreach. I could go on and on and on. There are so many other things between digital marketing and sort of exciting new referral contests for perks, but that could be another webinar or another time and place. I just want you guys to feel comfortable with these pieces as a first off, and know that Indiegogo is really here for you. We pride ourselves on those educational resources. My entire job is to help you guys get from point A to point Z, and I truly am inspired by all the social entrepreneurs that I get to work with day in and day out and thinking through new strategies. So we do have our field guide, our blog, our help center. I'll be able to follow up afterwards with some of these resources. But with that, I just want to close and say thank you so much. I hope that this was informative, and I will just open it up to questions now. All right, so Paul has asked, do you recommend paid advertising for a campaign? If so, is 10% of funding a reasonable cost? So great question, Paul. Paid advertising, it's going to be dependent upon, number one, what's the size of your campaign, and what are your budgetary constraints? Paid advertising is interesting because it's going to be hit or miss, right? It at times can be overshadowed by some really massive initiatives that are over $1 million amounts. If you're running a campaign that's within, the $5,000 amount, I would not do paid advertising. So 10% of funding reasonable cost. Again, it's just going to be really dependent upon kind of where your strengths are online already as the campaign team, and what that paid advertising is going to bring to it. I think emails are the most important. We have those statistics that, the emails convert to the contribution. So paid advertising might increase your visibility in shares and in likes on social media and online, but it would potentially not necessarily convert to contribution. Any other questions? Anne has a great question. Per cost as a percentage of the goal. Great question. So I think the way I'm interpreting this is, how are you gauging your different perks and perk levels dependent on the goal? And to answer this, really what we find is when you're launching with around 5 to 8 perk levels, they should range between the $5 to having those really high rollers of $10,000, because you don't know who's going to end up looking at your campaign, and you might as well just have an option up there so people know that that's possible. Perk fulfillment, though, in terms of perk cost, that's something that you should think through in conjunction with your goal. So if you wanted to cover your costs of, being able to fulfill or having to send postage or, getting T-shirts that you didn't have otherwise, it is completely fine to put that in the budget of your campaign and be transparent with the crowd, because the crowd gets it. Like, there are more savvy people that know about crowdfunding than any other time before, and it's even iterating and changing and evolving day in and day out. So if you say, hey, in order to do this campaign, I had to hire a videographer and I had to get T-shirts, that's going to cost X amount. It should be a small percentage of your goal. It should be a super small percentage of your goal, but at least you're covering your margin. I hope that answered your question. All right, Rika. We had an unsuccessful campaign a couple of years ago. Would you recommend a second one, try with new information and receive successes to share? Yeah, there's really no shame in launching a second campaign at all. A lot of times some people have fallen short and maybe they weren't equipped with the right information, but it shouldn't stalemate you from wanting to try again. And if it was unsuccessful, maybe it was unsuccessful from a funding perspective, but I'm assuming you still were able to galvanize some emails and really start to get the word out a bit. So you can utilize that information and those data points and get them excited by the fact that you're going to launch a second one. It's like a try again mentality. So happy to kind of work with you to think through that and figure out what were some of the pitfalls in your first one, and so you don't have the same issues for the second one. I think a key to that too is the timing in between. I wouldn't necessarily say go directly at it and run a second campaign immediately after, because you don't want to get into donor fatigue, and you want to have enough time to kind of understand what was unsuccessful and what was successful. So the fact that you had a couple years ago in between you, or a year ago even, that's fine, no problem. Great question, Paul. So how long should we run campaigns? 30 days better than 45 days. I recommend launching anywhere between around 35 to 45 days. The 35, I say, because those first 5 days, you're really kind of working that inner network of yours, the core of the onion, and then you start publicly pushing it out, and it is a little bit more time for you to be in stealth mode-ish, and then more public. So 45 days, because sometimes people need that extra oomph. You can run your campaign up to 60 days. And on Indiegogo, we do offer one extension to any campaign owner. So if you realize you're cooking with gas and you've got the artist that did the Obama Hope poster coming knocking on your door, you are more than happy to utilize your one extension. And then another thing I'll actually add to that is once you hit your goal after the 60 days or at the 30 days or 45 days, you actually can opt into our in-demand program. So our in-demand program allows you to continue raising funds well after the deadline date of your campaign. It just allows you to perhaps continue doing pre-orders of perks if you're a product, or continue raising funds for a program and initiative that some people are learning about a little bit too late, and you can kind of catch the slackers. It's really, really amazing opportunity just to keep that channel open and not necessarily have to do a massive outreach and promotion behind it after those 40 to 60 days. Any other questions?
It looks like there's no other questions, and we're getting close to the end of our time. So I just want to take just a moment, Alisa, to thank you so much for this really informative presentation. And I think, as you said, just the opener, just the first kind of core set of best practices, but that there's a lot more to come. So thank you so much for that. We'll be posting this webinar on our website, and as you said, follow up with more information about our partnership. So thanks everyone for your interest today, and we'll look forward to working further with you and of course with Indiegogo. So thanks, Alisa, and thank you everyone else.
Thanks all, appreciate it. Bye now.
Bye.